Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a plunge, really getting into the incredible and I think often surprising world of glaciers.
Yeah, they're not just these, static blocks of ice. They're really dynamic landscapes. They've got quite a story to tell about, well, about our planet.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive, what are we aiming for?
Well, first, we want to get a real handle on what a glacier actually is. Then we're going on a bit of a world tour, looking at 10 of the most amazing examples out there.
10 of them? Okay.
Yeah, we'll uncover what makes each one special. Some are big tourist draws, others are these hidden giants, and some, well, they pop up in places you might not expect.
Right. So let's start with the basics then. A glacier. What defines it? It's got to be more than just like a really big ice cube sitting somewhere.
Huh, yeah, definitely more. So fundamentally, a glacier is this large, persistent body of really dense ice,
Hmm.
and it forms on land. That's
Oh,
key.
I'm more.
And persistent is important too. It takes years, often, centuries, for snow to pile up, get squeezed together, and eventually turn into this super dense ice.
So it's old snow, essential.
Very old, very compressed snow.
Huh.
But the real kicker, what makes it different from just an ice sheet, is that it moves. It flows very slowly under its own massive weight. Think of it like a river of ice.
A river of ice. Okay, so it's moving, shaping the land. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So it's not an iceberg then. People sometimes mix those up.
Exactly. That's a really important distinction. Icebergs, yeah, they're huge chunks of ice too, but they've broken off a glacier or an ice shelf,
Mhm.
and they're just floating in the water.
Got it.
Glaciers are land-based. They're flowing, carving out valleys, making fjords, moving rocks around. Pretty powerful stuff.
And they hold a lot of fresh water, right? I read that somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Glaciers, ice sheets, ice caps, together they hold the vast majority of all the fresh water on Earth. It's kind of staggering when you think about it.
It really is. That puts things in perspective. Okay, so speaking of staggering, some of these are huge tourist magnets. Let's head to Argentina. Perito Moreno.
Ah, yes, Burrito Moreno. It's a classic. Located, what, about 48 miles from El Calafate? It's definitely a highlight for anyone visiting Patagonia.
And how do people usually see it?
Well, you've got options. You can get on a small boat on Lake Argentina, which gives you this amazing view from water level.
Hmm.
Or there are these really well-placed viewing platforms on land, three main areas.
Okay.
And if you're feeling adventurous, you can actually do guided walks on the ice, or even take a helicopter flight over it.
Wow, walking on it. But the thing I always hear about is the calving, right? The ice breaking off.
Oh yeah, that's the main event for many people. Huge pieces of ice just shearing off the front and crashing down into Lake Argentina, the sound. It's like thunder. Just incredible.
I can only imagine. And it's big. How long is it?
It's pretty substantial, about 30 kilometers long, so roughly 19 miles.
19 miles. Okay. And there are others like it, big draws for tourism.
Definitely. Up in Alaska, you've got the Marjorie Glacier in Glacier Bay. Similar kind of deal, big tourist attraction, lots of calving. It's 21 miles long, so 34 kilometers. A real star on Alaskan cruises.
Right. Alaska makes sense. Now, you also mentioned something about New Zealand, Fox Glacier and Franz Josef. What's their story? They sound a bit different.
They're quite unique. They're on the west coast of the South Island. And what's really fascinating is how far down they come. They flow from the southern Alps right down to almost sea level,
Really? How low?
less than 300 meters, or about 980 feet, above sea level. And the amazing part is they basically flow into a temperate rainforest.
Wait, a glacier meets a rainforest. That sounds bizarre.
It is. It's this incredible contrast. You've got this ancient ice right next to lush green ferns and trees. It's why glacier walks there are so popular. Franz Josef is about 12 kilometers or 7.5 miles, and Fox is slightly longer at 13 kilometers, 8.1 miles.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going on the list. So cool. All right, we've seen the accessible ones, the tourist hotspots. Let's talk about the giants, the record breakers.
Yes, the heavyweights. Let's start with the BFO Glacier in Pakistan.
BFO, what record does it hold?
Well, it's seriously long itself, 63 kilometers, that's 39 miles, winding through the Karakoram Mountains. But the really big deal is where it meets the Hispar Glacier.
Okay.
The Hispar is 49 kilometers or 30 miles long, and they join up at this incredible altitude, 5,128 meters. That's over 16,800 feet.
Wow.
And together, they form the world's longest glacial system outside of the polar regions. Just this massive highway of ice.
Unbelievable scale. Okay, from Pakistan to Iceland, Vatnajökull. That name sounds familiar.
It should. Vatnajökull literally means glacier of rivers. It's the biggest glacier in Iceland by far and one of the largest in Europe by area. Covers something like 8% of the whole country.
8%. And glacier of rivers, does that mean lots of meltwater?
Exactly. Huge amounts of meltwater feed Iceland's rivers. But it's also famous for Jökulsárlón.
Ah, the glacier lagoon. I've seen pictures. They look unreal.
They really do. It's this big lake connected to the ocean, and it's just choked with icebergs that have broken off Vatnajökull. They float around, drift out to sea. It's constantly changing. Incredibly beautiful.
Definitely another picture postcard location. Okay, staying in Europe, let's hop over to Norway. Jostedalsbreen Glacier, another big one for Europe.
Yep, this one holds the title for the largest glacier in continental Europe. It's in western Norway.
How big are we talking?
Pretty big. 60 kilometers long, so 37 miles. And it's thick, around 600 meters. That's nearly 2,000 feet deep in places. Covers a huge area, too, 487 square kilometers or 188 square miles.
Yep.
That's a lot of ice.
2,000 feet thick. It's hard to even picture that. And one more giant Pasteurized Glacier in Austria.
Right, the Pasteur Ice. It's the longest in Austria and also the longest in the whole Eastern Alps region, about 8.4 kilometers or 5.2 miles long.
And where exactly is it?
It's got a pretty dramatic setting right beneath the Großglockner, which is Austria's highest mountain, and it's still quite thick, around 120 meters or 400 feet.
Okay, so we've seen these icy titans, these tourist draws. But you mentioned glaciers in unexpected places. Let's get into that. Antarctica first. Canada Glacier. Seems like Antarctica should have glaciers everywhere.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the Canada Glacier is, well, it's different. It's relatively small, flows into Taylor Valley and Victoria Land. But here's the twist. The area gets less than 10 centimeters of snow a year.
10 centimeters? That's nothing. How is it even a glacier?
Because it's so incredibly cold and dry, it's technically a desert ecosystem, a polar desert. Any snow that falls often gets scoured away by the wind or sublimates, turns straight from solid to gas.
A glacier in a desert. Okay, my mind is slightly blown. How does it survive?
The extreme cold preserves the ice it already has. And what's fascinating is this meltwater, what little there is seasonally, actually feeds these unique lakes, Lake Frixel and Lake Hoare, which have life in them, tiny microbial life. So the glacier is kind of a lifeline in this barren place.
Incredible. Life finds a way, even there. Okay, from the Antarctic desert to China. Yulong Glacier.
Yeah, this one's different again. It's on Yulong Mountain, or Jade Dragon Snow Mountain, in southwestern China. The mountain itself is super high. The highest peak is nearly 5,600 meters, or 18,360 feet.
So high altitude, but China. Is it the climate that's unusual?
Kind of. It's in a region influenced by monsoons. So unlike the constant cold of the poles, or the steady accumulation you might get elsewhere, it has really distinct seasons of snowfall and melt. It's a high-altitude glacier existing in a very different climatic rhythm.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've covered the awe, the scale, the surprises, but there's another side to this story, isn't there? The retreat.
Yes. And it's a crucial part of the picture now. It's quite sobering, actually. Let's look at the Furtwängler Glacier. This one's on Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania.
Kilimanjaro, the snows of Kilimanjaro. But the glacier itself.
Well, that glacier is now just a tiny remnant near the summit. It used to be part of this huge ice cap covering the top of Africa's highest mountain. People thought it was, permanent.
But it's shrinking fast.
Dramatically fast. The stats are pretty stark. Between 1912 and the year 2000, something like 82% of all the glacial ice on Kilimanjaro just disappeared.
82%? Wow.
Yeah. And the projection back then was that all the glaciers might be totally gone by 2020. Now, you'll still get seasonal snow up there for a few months.
Right.
But the ancient ice, the actual glacier, is vanishing before our eyes.
Yeah.
It's a very, very visible sign of climate change happening really quickly.
That's incredibly sobering. And it's not just happening there, right? You mentioned the Pasteurized Glacier in Austria earlier.
Exactly. We talked about its size, but it's also part of this retreat story. It's currently shrinking by about 10 meters, that's around 73 feet, in lengths every single year.
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
So it adds to that bigger picture. Even these giants we've talked about, many of them are shadows of what they once were. It's happening across the globe.
So let's try and wrap our heads around this. We've journeyed from, the thundering calving of Perito Moreno to these bizarre rainforest glaciers in New Zealand.
We've seen the sheer scale of Biafo and Vatnajökull, found ice in Antarctic deserts and on high Chinese mountains.
We've seen their diversity, their power, their role as these massive freshwater stores.
Yeah, they're not just static scenery. They're dynamic, incredibly powerful parts of the Earth system. They shape landscapes, influence water, and labor. Well, lately, they're telling us a story about rapid change.
So when you think about the majesty of something like Vatnajökull or the spectacle of Perito Moreno, and then you hear about Furtwängler or Pesteras shrinking so much so quickly within basically our lifetimes,
Well,
what does that really signify?
it's a tough question. I mean, seeing these ancient ice bodies disappear,
Hmm.
it's more than just losing a beautiful natural feature, right? It's like an early warning signal
For what?
for big shifts,
Hmm.
changes in water availability for millions of people downstream, rising sea levels globally, impacts on ecosystems. It really makes you think about the future of these incredible icy giants, doesn't it?
Mm.
And what their fate might be telling us about our own.